Thank you. So, first of all, I think we have a very diverse, panel over here. Prithvijit, Swati, and all, and you heard about everything. Engineer, economics, someone from Germany. The one vector of diversity, which you can't get in any panel, is that you can't not have at least 2 Bengalis on a panel in a data science conference. Everything else, you can get any number of these things. So we obviously failed to do that. Mathangi, one of our colleagues, is delayed in traffic. She'll come a bit late. So I'll begin this panel with 2 biases that I carry. Bias is an important part of data science. So the first bias I have because of my background. I started off in management consulting, then into banking, and then analytics. So I start by saying, what's the strategy? What's the economics of that strategy? And now let's talk about data science, right? So we'll bring that bias back in here. A lot of people in this field are quite unbiased, having come from the engineering background and data science background. So we'll bring that bias in. The second bias I have is a recently introduced bias by Dr. Alok Agarwal. He's the chief of Synaptic, also a co-founder of Evaluator. So he's written a book called 100 Years of AI. Interesting book. I've started reading it midway through. So he says that 4 industrial revolutions, any new technology, he says, takes 20 years to diffuse, starting with the steam engine, to the electric motor, to the internet, and now AI. And he has some ideas. And my takeaway was that the choke point of diffusion is really us. We are unable to change. So 20 years is really a generation. So every technology takes a generation to change. So those are the 2 biases we'll keep in mind as we talk about Gen AI, which is the newest kid on the block. So we'll start first by just getting your view of this Gen AI proverbial elephant. You see different parts of it. So let's start with Prithvijit. What do you see in Gen AI?
Okay. Thanks, Pankaj, and great to see the room filled of people who are enthusiastic in this space. So really excited to be here. Thanks to 3AI for setting this stage up. So to your point, I think, yes, you're right. Gen AI is a little bit of the 3 blind men and the elephant. Different people touch it from different things and have their version. So I do have a little bit of my version. I'll break it into 2 parts. One, just the technology itself, how I see it. And to your point, many of us really think about application and how to think about it. So from a technology standpoint, I see this space really a continuation what we have been doing in the whole data and AI space. Is really evolving. I think many years back, we were looking at data to see more descriptive AI. It became more predictive over the last 1.5 decade, where we could do recommendations, we could do planning, optimization. But we were restricted to mostly structured data. And now I think the whole Gen AI and LLM really opens in a much easier way how to look at unstructured data. And that's huge in a big way. And I think that's really the opportunity. And that from technology standpoint, it has become much easier to look at or really interact with the machine one and drive generation of variety of things what AI can do. So that's really the evolution. Means we did a lot of these things even earlier, but I think with ChatGPT, I think it's a lot more consumerized, a lot more easier to play that space. But we should not look at Gen AI as a silo. It's really, again, a space which is a continuity, and it has to really come together. So that's one way I see Gen AI. Second area is just the application thinking process. I think many technologies have come and gone in my view, and it has kind of got killed over time. But if you look at Gen AI, the way we see it, it's probably more pervasive because if I look at any business value chain, there is probably an element of AI and Gen AI which will have a role to play. So it's not like another technology which just comes in, we use it in one area, which goes away. But if we map anything on a business value chain and want to think about it, how it will get reimagined and reinvented with AI, it's possible really, be it supply chain, be it customer support, be it marketing. Means everywhere I think Gen AI has a role to play. In marketing content generation, for example, or in CRM, how do we really make it a lot more kind of augmenting, say, the customer support a big way using, say, assistant there. So my take, I think, is really a huge opportunity. Obviously, any opportunity comes with certain risks and controls that we have to put in place, but there's a huge opportunity to think about more and more ways of kind of embedding Gen AI and rethink how you run your business today at every process. So that's how I look at Gen AI in terms of the techniques and the tool and how it's evolving in terms of application.
Thanks, Swati.
Thank you, Pankaj. It's a pleasure to be here, and nice to hear Jit's comments. And I'll begin with an analogy that I recently heard in a conference, that what Baba Ramdev did to yoga, ChatGPT did to AI, and bringing the AI conversations in the drawing rooms, living rooms, and even bedrooms. So that is what where I get fascinated with what Gen AI does on a daily basis, either at a personal level when we leverage ChatGPT for anything, or in the office when we see the use cases. It definitely fascinates me, and this is something that comes to the top of my mind. Now, I'll say three things about this, which are again at the top of my mind. One is that the risks of not using Gen AI, I do believe that are more than risks associated with Gen AI. So everybody has to explore Gen AI. Of course, this is the exploration phase which is going on, and it will take some time for us to really see large-scale benefits out of it, but definitely it has to be explored and nobody can be away from it. Second, I would say that often the question about talent and job losses and everything is there. So definitely it will bring efficiencies, and there might be job cuts in a few areas, but then of course it will augment human capabilities also, and that is something like newer jobs will evolve, like AI trainers and AI ethics experts, etc. So definitely the risks associated with job losses, I think, are lesser than the potential it has, and the elevation to human race that it can bring about. So that is, and the third thing I would say is that while enterprises implement Gen AI for enterprise internal use cases or for customer experience use cases, they should look at the data layer. Domain centricity has to be the key, human in the loop. So some of these aspects has to be remembered while using Gen AI, and definitely it has a lot of potential for everyone around.
And Aritra, I think your German experience and your manufacturing experience, let's hear your thoughts.
Working? Check. So good morning from my side, first of all, and thank you, Samir, for having me here. Thank you, Pankaj. So I would put it in a different way. So as Mercedes-Benz, we have always been on the cutting edge of technology when it comes to our products, right? And we have been experimenting with everything which comes around. Now for me, you were talking about a different, diverse group sitting here. I am a pure mechanical engineer who started doing his doctoral work at that time in something called as neural networks and fuzzy logic for controls, which later translated into ML and later now to AI and Gen AI. I've been always fascinated what data can tell us, and especially for someone who's coming from manufacturing, and many of the guys here in the room will understand, we are running a company where the bulk of the money, the bulk of the people are in this place. I am talking about a role which we are doing here out of my team, where we are handling around 30 different plants, building 50 different models, each model having more than 20,000 different parts. And it's a hugely complex world. And that's where, when we come to discussions or decision making, data has always played a very, very, very essential role. And in the past, this was all done based on some simple analytics, a lot of experience, a lot of gut feeling of the people. And now with Gen AI coming in, we have a complete different way how me and 86,000 people who are in the operations of this company can consume that information. At Mercedes, we have a saying that goes, if Mercedes only knew what Mercedes knows. We are a company which is more than 130 years old. We have already done all sorts of mistakes which we could have done, but no one knows about it. Companies typically have this short-term memory loss, where we forget what has been done in the past, what we have learned in the past. And now with Gen AI, we are trying to unlock that wealth of information, that wealth of knowledge which is there in the company. So that is one thing. Next is, that the product cycles are changing. Cars are getting compared to smartphones. Yeah? So the expectation of the customer is, I get iPhone every year. Why can't I have everything new feature in a car every year as well? And to keep up with that pace, we don't have the R&D time which we used to have in the past. And how do you now shorten this cycle? And we believe that there are various really good use cases of using Gen AI to bringing that to life. And in the previous presentation, they were talking about a Lego to a Tesla. And that's a very good example, because scaling of production is always one of the essential parts, and many companies in the world have encountered their challenges while doing so. And we see that Gen AI, with its abilities to collate that information, to process the different aspects of it, gives us that edge in the manufacturing to define that for the future. So that's how we at manufacturing and operations at Mercedes-Benz see Gen AI. We are welcoming it with open arms, and we are looking at different aspects of it.
Thanks, guys. So my next question is, and I'll start with Swati on that. All of you are getting asked this question about job loss, and I as an employee, how should I plan my career? What is my career path 5 years from now? I'm sure all of you get asked these questions. So I wonder, and we'll come to all of you, how are you answering that question? And because this question is becoming even more relevant today, I mean, this question was always there with AI, but this Gen AI has unleashed that question even more. So what is the thought that you have that you're talking to your employees about? Same will come to Jit and you as well.
Yeah. So, see, I think the age-old the truths remain the same, that do your work well and the rest will follow, right? So I think that applies here also. We've been seen, even in the 20 years, we've seen first it began with descriptive analytics, and then it moved to predictive, and then prescriptive, and then cognitive, and now we have Gen AI and everything. So definitely means the first thing I say is that whatever you are doing, try to do it well. Second is that start gaining knowledge about the adjacent areas. So for example, in Gen AI, if you are working in the predictive analytics side, so you have to start getting knowledge about the data side, the data architectures, everything. So those are the aspects. So start increasing your knowledge in adjacent area. Knowledge around responsible AI principles, the data privacy, the data regulations, all of these are very important, because anything, especially in the Gen AI world, a person who's able to actually implement it from the beginning to the end needs to be aware about all these aspects. It's not only just one aspect that can go through. And secondly, I also say from the career perspective that there's so much, like, if you are like wanting to be in the tech field and AI field, it's not only just about the mathematics, the models. There's a whole aspect of domain knowledge. There's a whole aspect of project management skills, etc., which are very, very essential for success of any Gen AI or AI project. So those are the two things basically which I always say.
Thanks, Jit. Also touch upon, I'm sure you get asked, so what should my role be? Should I take this course or not? I mean, these are questions being asked of all of us. Yeah. So just share some more anecdotes on how you're answering these questions.
Yeah. No, so if you look at Accenture, I think from our business, we look at this as a transformation in many folds. One is for our clients, what I talked about earlier, but we are obviously in the services business. So the way we'll do services today, how you do technology delivery, how you do operations, how you do consulting is changing also because of Gen AI, because it's impacting how we do things. And even the third element of the way we look at it is also going to change how we do our own business. How do we run HR? How do we run procurement? Everything kind of changes there. So first and foremost, do we resist it or do we adopt the change? In my view, this is a little bit like the Industrial Revolution back there when a lot of people resisted it. But think about had it not happened, what would have happened kind of a thing. And AI and Gen AI, in my view, is something the genie is out of the bottle. So if you try to put it back to the bottle, it is not going to work. So you have to accept a technology which has come in and then drive it. Is there going to be a utopian concept that there's no change at all. No, it impacts. It impacts certain work, certain processes, certain jobs out there. But there is also a big positive aspect to this whole Gen AI. It is not going to just take away jobs, it's also going to create a lot more jobs. But even for taking away, I think the way we look at things means Gen AI is good, but Gen AI also has to have a human in the loop. So a bigger play of Gen AI honestly is about augmenting human. So the ability for human to do a set of things which they were not able to do at all earlier, or do it in a more efficient and a better way. So I think those are elements to kind of think through as we look at it. Means trying to resist doesn't help, but I think Swati talked about it. There's a huge opportunity to reskill and drive. For us, we are, I think this is one of the biggest investment areas for Accenture. Julie Sweet has announced a big ramp up. We see the workforce in AI and Gen AI and data to move from 40,000 to 80,000 in the next couple of years or so. So there's going to be a lot more jobs created in the whole AI space. So I think there's a need to think reskilling. There's a need to think how we do things different. And that's been the communication. So we can't just keep doing what we were doing in the past. We have to do things differently. Even as analytics, AI professionals, I think Samit started saying the same thing. We can't do the same thing. We have to adopt a technology which has come in there. So I think that's true about every human being in who's kind of doing something today. So that's how I look at it. So the positives hopefully are going to be much higher over time is what you should look up to.
Sure. Aritra, your views on the topic of talent. What do you tell them?
So we are already seeing this disruption in our workforce, and as I mentioned, in the manufacturing sector and in the automotive sector per se, we have a lot of workforce who are in blue collar jobs, and we know that the industry is changing. The work which they are doing today is getting automated. The decision making is getting streamlined. So what we have started within our area is we are transforming our factories. And we have created something called as the Digital Factory Campus, with the pilot being in Berlin, and I was the instrumental part of founding it in 2021. We set it up, where we are reskilling our people from what I would say, from the shop floor to understand data, to understand analytics, and go into different skill sets which can ensure a workforce of the future. So that is something which we are doing very strongly. And with Gen AI, I think the entry barrier for some of the group of people to do some simple digital work has also reduced. Yeah, and that is what we are banking on, and we are trying to do that shift also as our responsibility towards the society, especially in countries like Germany. Yeah. So I think it's happening everywhere.
Thanks. So Mathangi, we've had sort of two questions and we would love your views on that. Sure. The first was just generically, how do you see Gen AI? What does it mean to you? And the second one was, how do you talk to your employees and talent when they're asking you, my job will get lost, or how do I make my career? What course should I do? What will get eliminated? How do I upskill? So just those two thoughts from your side.
Sure. So I don't think AI has been such a big boardroom conversation prior to Gen AI. So one thing that people in AI and have been leveraging them have got benefited by this is the marketing and the hype around this has got so much that it's absolute center stage boardroom conversations today. So something that AI had wanted, we have got out of it. So that's the big positive in this. There is, the potential is immense. So one, from a data scientist perspective, if I talk about it, it has kind of democratized NLP largely. It's democratized the usage of AI. So people can generate insights, summaries, a certain generation of text, which was beyond the realm of a lot of people. It has just got this accessible, and hence the applications are just exploding, right? Have we reached a stage where we know absolutely the right fit for this? There are different experiments being carried out. So the product market fit of some of the solutions at scale for enterprise is emerging, I would say. But there are large scale applications. So one of the applications we have been working on generative AI is when there are multi-page financial documents about organizations, about their credit worthiness, etc. These are thousands of signals pouring into those documents, and somebody writing 40, 45 page documents. So we're trying to kind of see where generative AI will lead us there. So the potential is immense, right? Not only just writing a tagline about a product or coming up with a caption, etc., but also very deep use cases for enterprises is possible if only we kind of make it context aware, if we are able to work with the data around it, etc. That's one thing. Second, yeah, that there are people who do feel their jobs will be off, and one of that is also my daughter. So every 2 weeks once she says, what happens to AI? Will AI take over the jobs, etc.? I don't think so. There are going to be proliferation of AI in a lot of places. Erstwhile people who were not native to these engines and native to these algorithms are going to leverage them more. So that's what is going to happen. For a data scientist who possibly is threatened by this, I don't think they should just co-opt it. So those who have been in structured data, for example, it's a great time for them to get into generative AI because the learning curve in this is small while they start using this for applications. And those who are deep in NLP, etc., what started out as the big one from GPT-4, right, is also now being extremely challenged by a lot of open source LLMs in the market. So open source will be the key, which will again make those people who are deep into natural language or deep into computer vision and AI will make their life even more interesting. So either way, there is a lot of positives from the application side and also from the developer side. That's how I look at it.
Thanks. So this will be my last question, and I'll go this way. So when people say we have an AI first strategy, so there's this thinking that we should apply AI anywhere and everywhere, right? So again, with Gen AI, are there some areas where you'll say we should not use Gen AI? Because people will say, let's just use it everywhere. If at all. If not, that's fine. But I'm just keen to see, should you not use it somewhere? What would you tell? And then I'll go to all of you.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. It's the El Dorado rush which is going on. Everyone is talking about Gen AI and can Gen AI do this? Can they do that? To be honest, I would say that we are right now in a phase of exploration. Yeah. So we are trying out Gen AI in different places, and I'll be honest that we are trying also maybe applications which at the end might not be a Gen AI case. But where we draw a line is when AI starts influencing safety, where safety of our employees, safety of our customers, that is where we say, okay, we cannot leave it completely to Gen AI. That is where we have to get in. And then there are topics of ethics and compliance, which we are very, very strict about. And that is where we still say, okay, humans have to be in the loop. We have to understand. But on the other hand, right now, I can't give you a clear answer in my industry because we are trying out everything.
Thank you.
I think I'll agree with Aritra that Gen AI, if not to be used, right now the major problem is identification of where we should use it to get the low-hanging fruits and the outcome. So in my mind, where absolutely not to be used is a distant thing, but even we should not use it when we feel cost of error is high. For example, internally in the enterprise, we may use it for certain use cases, but when it is to customer facing and brand level image for the organization, that something may go wrong in this use case, I think one should restrict. The way one should use is where the cost of error is less, the outcome potential is very high, very positive outcomes we are expecting, and that is how we should go about using from enterprise use cases to then customer-facing use cases.
Thanks. Jit.
Yeah, I agree with Aditya and Swati, both from risk as well as cost, we should look at it. Absolutely. The way I think it's not about where Gen AI to use or not, but it's more about how you use Gen AI, because Gen AI can also be, again, it's not just because everyone's talking. You could use Gen AI, but suppose I was trying something with Gemini yesterday. I think Google just offered me to use Gemini. I was using it and I was looking at answers. If we start using some of those in decision making, many cases it will not give you the result. In many cases, obviously, there is an element of hallucination. There is an element of, I think we call it more as responsible AI. I think it has to be thought through significantly. Am I really using it in the right form in wherever we use it? Second, I think many of the times we think, everything needs Gen AI. But I think we probably have to address it with a value in view. There's a cost of using Gen AI. Do we really need Gen AI in kind of doing it? Because there are many cases which could be simple things with whatever we were doing with even Excel or AI or whatever it is. We probably don't need Gen AI. So because we are trying to now almost stop down, think about let's use Gen AI because we hear it from the boardroom and we try to go and use it in every case. There's also a cost of actually doing it. There is elements of long-term sustainability impact of using Gen AI and others. So we have to be very careful and prioritize with value where Gen AI could be relevant. So I think value, cost, and risk and being responsible would be the way I would look at where I should not use it again.
Thanks. Mathangi.
Yeah, so see, first it is generative AI. So language processing problems can be divided into two things. One is understanding, natural language understanding, and natural language generation. So by the definition of it, you use it for a generative problem. Not every problem is a generative problem. A lot of NLP problems still continue to be in the realm of understanding, which are typical classifications, topic models, and things like that. You can still use your discriminatory models, not only about cost, even their performance is good. So wherever there is a generation use case, there's a summarization use case, that's where you start this with. This is on the application layer I'm saying. Of course, on the code generation, I think there is a lot of fear that has got achieved. What organizations are using is more for doing a QA, doing basic checks, etc. What they are asking people to avoid from is blindly generating a code without understanding what those nuances are. So those are, if you completely look at product engineering, that's where the maximum usage is coming in. But on the data science side towards applications, generative use cases are good enough to start with, where your traditional NLP problems will not sort it. But there are cases where people even use it for structured data problems. That's absolutely an overkill of generative AI. So the paradigms and fundamentals don't change, right? For any solution has to come from the problem and has to be context aware and has to be based out of data. This paradigm, if it is followed, I think whether it is generative AI, regular machine learning model, all will be equally satisfied.
Thanks.
If I can just add to Mathangi, great points. And I personally think this is where the classical AI and Gen AI has to work in tandem. Because in many cases, I think Gen AI has given a beautiful interaction and consumption layer because I'm able to interact with machine in such a way. But the insights may not necessarily come from Gen AI because insights can also come from more classical AI. So the ability to really look at them together and how we drive it is probably the next problem as enterprises that we have to solve for. So that's where I think there's a lot of work which is going to evolve in the next few years in my view.
So last one, so we have 2 minutes. I wanted you to share with the audience, what is that question that you are right now pondering over and thinking about? And that's my last question, that your question, which you are thinking about, that we can all continue to think about. So Mathangi, starting with you and we'll come back.
Yeah, this I am literally thinking about every day. It's spoken about this. How do we use generative AI for large-scale financial summaries, which could assist financial analysts and reduce and replace things like credit information reports or credit summary, credit notes of people for enterprises. So these are large-scale, deep application of generative AI is where we stand.
Thanks, Jit.
I think rather than a specific area, I would just focus on adoption of AI, Gen AI, rather than just solving it. Because I still think a majority of work in Gen AI or AI is at a pilot stages and it's not going to production for a variety of reasons. So what makes me nervous is just like say BI. Historically, we have put a lot of money in BI, but then reports never get consumed and the science got killed. So we run a similar risk in AI, Gen AI, if we don't think adoption, which is where I think the biggest focus should be.
Thanks, Swati.
The things are top of my mind. How do I keep pace with all the change that is happening? And secondly, also the outcome. What are the outcomes we are seeing in different use cases of Gen AI? Because there's so much talk about applying Gen AI, then about adoption, but where's the outcome? That is something that I'm always inquisitive about.
Thanks, Aritra.
The question I wonder the most about is when I'm thinking about generative AI is actually questioning myself, am I missing out on some aspect of Gen AI which is out there but I am still not tapping into? And the vision we have is, or I have is, can Gen AI define and design the next manufacturing line for me?
Thank you. Thank you, my lovely panel. Thank you very much. Thanks, audience.